Frank, and today I'll put this character together. It's like a parody spoof character of Dirk the Daring, and I'll call this character Lurk. So what I'll do is just take this PSD file that I made earlier that was in probably the prior video, and then I'll just grab it from the list and then drag it to this screen here in Anime Studio Pro, and then it brings up this prompt: import layers individually or as composite. So I'll press individually because that will give me all the different layers separately, and those are all the layers within the Photoshop GIMP style program that I had earlier. So this layer here is unnecessary. I'll just delete it, and that'll help me out in that when I import this Anime Studio profile, it will allow me to just drop it into the other Anime Studio profile without any prompt at all and save me a step. So that's the advantage of that. It's no big deal. So the first thing I'll do is just zoom this camera out to get an idea of the character, which I adjusted a little bit in the GIMP photo editor program. And what I'll do now is I have to separate all the pieces. So the first thing I'll do is click the select tool, and actually I have to go under the select tool here for layer, and then go under the actual piece itself. And let's say you want the arm, so because I have these pieces connected to it, I'll bring it out here and pull that further out because he's going to be holding the sword. And then I'll go to the other arm and then do the same thing for that, and move that probably right about there, and then he'll have a sword too. Then I could have the sword right here on the character itself, or behind the character, however I want to do this. But the sword, I added a glow to it, which I think adds a neat look to it. So it's just something I wanted to add to it, to this parody character. And now with the sword, I'll just angle it to match this fist, because that's the one that will be holding the sword. And then I want to duplicate the sword for that hand over there, and with that hand and this hand, let's see, that's what it'll look like over there. So what I'll do is just duplicate the sword right now. Press the duplicate button, and it'll create the two pieces that I need. And then I'll bring that under the, let's see, it'll be on top of the hand on this one, because let's see, let me just double check. Actually, it'll be underneath the hand. Yeah, it would have to be underneath. I mean, yeah, it would. If I have it over the hand, this is what it would look like. So bring this copy over here and then rotate it to the angle you need it, and then just pull that up there. That could work like that, or I could just go like this. That works a little bit better, although you would see the hilt of the sword right here, which you don't see it in this image. But this is just for fun, so I'm not too worried about it. But let's see, if I have the hand like, I mean the sword like that, and then that would work for that hand as he grips it. But then you'd have to create a separate piece for the, or just move this down here. I mean that sort of works, but then it's just a matter of, well, does that work better? That works better. So that's it. That's where I'll leave it for now. Now the next step that I'll take, and of course you could put that hand down there as though he's grabbing the sword. In other words, close the fist and see he's grabbing the sword, and then the fist clutches the sword. So that is just one step, but let's go move these other pieces apart so we could create the skeleton. And the first thing I like to do is select the face and then go all the way up to the top piece, which in this case, let's see, the nose would be right about there. So we'll grab the face and then the other pieces, including the top helmet, and I'll pull all that up here out of the way. Now the next piece that I'll work on, let's see, this is like the chain outfit costume that he wears. I have to plan this out and see if I have to move that separately. How's that going to work? I think yes, I have to keep that separate. So I'll move that up there, and the reason for that is it has its own flow. When I animate it, I don't want it connected to this torso, otherwise it'll be limited to the torso movement and the skeleton of the torso, and that's not going to work. So with this piece here, I'll move the leg there and the other leg here, and now I'll just press save really quick, and then I'll start the keying of the skeleton bones. So the first piece would go right here at the base of the torso, second piece in the middle, third piece at the shoulders, and then for this fourth piece, since it's already linked to this latest one, I'll just continue up here to the helmet, and there we go. And I could rotate the helmet, but if I take it off, it's going to stretch because now it's linked to the head. Alright, so next thing I'll do is click on the select, click on the shoulder skeleton, and then click on this. Actually, let me be sure I didn't duplicate that. Yeah, I think I added an extra one in there, so I made sure I didn't have it in there. So now I'll just click on there and pull this skeleton down there, then let go of it. Do the same for here. And with the hands, if I want those to rotate, I'll just create a separate bone there. This hand will control the sword, so I have to go like that, and that will control the sword. Now I'll go to the other arm, but first click on the shoulder here. Now click on the top of the arm, drag it down to right about there, then click again, and then pull that down to there, and then pull that for the hand, and then from the hand I go right to the sword, and there we go there. And now we'll move on to this torso piece here, which will be linked to this torso, and then this piece here, I think I'll keep it out of the way of this, so let me just move it over here, and that's the center pivot, so these are based on the center pivot. So there's that, and now I have to create this one here, that piece, so it'll flap in the wind. Next thing I'll do is get the legs. Is the final step, and you have to click on the bottom torso skeleton and then click on the leg and just drag and let go of the button until you have it where you want it. And for the shoe, I'll just add those two key skeleton bones, and then finally the back leg, and just click on the two key skeleton bones there. And now I'll test it all. So next thing I have to do is just grab it, all the pieces, and blend them all together. But before I do that, he has a sword that if he's not holding it, he has to put it either on his chainmail or his back, or somewhere he has to place it, so when he's not carrying it, it's being held in place. So let me see where that would be a good place to store the sword. And I think first I have to create a extra sword, so let me do that now and just add that piece down to the torso right around here. But I'll put it behind the torso and behind the legs, and I think right about here should be good. Behind the back arm maybe too. It's not critical, but it would help. Actually, I'll put it behind in front of the back arm. So now that I have that, I have to move it in place right about here. Just rotate it to where I want it. It could be on his back or wherever, but I'll place that right about there. That's going to be a little weird for the the character movement, having it like that. I could put it over here on his shoulder to vary it up. It doesn't have to be exactly like the cartoon. So instead of the backpack, because this is a parody, I'll just have it on his back. And then I have to create a skeleton for that piece, so I'll click on the top bone so I can activate this, and then since it's going to be connected to his shoulders, I'll just have that piece there and just drag that through there. And now I'll test it all together, and the way I'll do that is just pull these limbs into the back to where they started from. There we go. And then this piece goes here. This is a really important step to get it where you want it, because this is where it's going to be in the final animation. So if you animate, it's critical that you have it where you want the pieces. So I think that'll be good right there. I think that works. Make sure this isn't too high up. If it's too high up, it'll look weird. There we go. Now this is the drape that the character has, and you can see all these pieces are in the way, so it's going to be hard to place everything. So I just click on these and make them invisible. This way it's easier to figure out what's going on here. Otherwise it's hard to see where to place everything. Let's see, so I'll just get that out of the way too, and now I have to go up to here. I wouldn't go in here, but I'll go up here, and then I'll go back to this key here and this tool here and just pull that right, I'd say right about there looks good. And then this other back leg, I'll move it up a little bit more and just place that right about there. Now for the final step, let's see, you can make this visible again, and that's what he looks like there. Now all these pieces are on. You could shut them off as you like, but just temporarily I'll just do that right now and just see what it looks like. So I'll just get rid of all these pieces here and just take a quick look at the character. There we go. And you can see the sword's back there. I could rotate it so it's this way. I think that would probably be cooler, because it's kind of in the way of his face right there. So what I'll do before I do anything else is go back to the top skeleton, and then I have to click on that piece. So let me first rotate the sword, and that sword is right over here. And then let's see, I'll just go like this, separate from the character, and then just put that over there. Now the reason it does that is because I have the skeleton affected by it, so I have to go back to this, click on this, and I could keep that there and just bring it over here and then rotate it over here, and there it is. I have it in place now. So it's a simple little adjustment, but that definitely helps out. So now all the pieces are in place. The sword is back to normal. It's not distorted because now it has the proper skeleton frame. But now I have to test it. So let me do that now and test all these pieces, and I'll take a look here. So that looks good. I like that. This is weird. Something's messed up there big time. I have no idea what happened there. Let's see what skeleton that is. Alright, that works there. Wow, that's weird. The sword. Oh yeah, I won't be selecting that sword. That's why. That's why it's making that weird effect. So that works. This piece here probably should be connected to the shoulders, because look at all that movement, and that drape there is not being affected at all. It looks really weird. So I have to adjust that. I have to go in and let's see. The sword, actually I can make this invisible. I don't think I need a keyframe for that. So let me delete that, edit, cut. There we go. I think that these three keyframe skeletons are strong enough to grab the sword. Let's see what happens. Oh no, not strong enough. See how it warped right there? The only way you could resolve that is to take this piece here, go into your strength of the skeleton, and then go like that. But that's going to affect other things. It's too strong, so I don't want to do that. So I'll go back to that and just add a little skeleton to this. Now that I have that selected, I'll just go like that, and that'll keep that in place so it's not warped without having to affect everything else. See how the skeleton's still in place? Perfect. And I have a lot more control here now too, because this piece isn't in the way anymore. And the next thing I'll do, let's see, I had to bring this to connect to this top shoulder, otherwise it looks really weird. Yeah, because I'm not going to be picking this one by itself. So what I'll do is click on these and just delete them. You could reassign them, but I'm not going to spend time trying to do that. It's easier to just go to this top piece, select it, and then create the new skeleton for that flowing drape material of the costume. So now when I go back to this, I have to bring this back down over here. just like that. There we go. Now I'll test it. Hopefully this works. I mean, it works like I thought it should. Stay with the piece, but that's totally messed up. I'm not sure how that's gonna work. Maybe I have to just connect it to the main character. That's weird. I've never actually... See, the character bends fine, but that piece shouldn't be hanging in the wind like that. So the reason I had those three well, never mind. I don't know if this is gonna work with this piece separate. I might have to just bring it right in here. Let me try that right now. Let's go to this piece here, right there in the list, and just bring that right in there, and then see what happens. I have to get rid of these skeletons, these bones. So the way I'll do that is go up back to there, click on these, since I'm not going to use these now. So now that I have that, let's just test this and see what happens. Yeah, see, there it is. That's normal. That's staying with the character. That would work. The only problem is when he lifts his leg, this will be stationary. So what I'll try is click on this bottom link here, and then let's just add a little piece here, and then click on that bottom link again and add a back piece, and let's see if that helps out. So when he lifts his leg and then bends his leg, this piece would... See, there's so much going on in there. I have to... Let's just test the bones. That's not too bad, but I could improve it, and I think I will, but let's just look. That seems to be okay. I might actually want to reduce the... Well, no, that's fine. I could add another piece in there maybe. But I do want it like exaggerated, so maybe I'll just leave it that way. So with this piece here, this is what I want to do, but look how that affects that. And then this piece here would extend there, but I have to reduce their impact so the torso is not so distorted just for a cloth moving around. I think that'll work right there. And then this piece back here, like that. So you see how it can move out of the way, and then it'll like flow. Unfortunately, it's affecting the sword, and I don't want the sword affected. So that's a challenge, a new challenge right there. But otherwise, that holds together really well there. And let's just let me figure out what's going on with these arms. I could reduce that, but that doesn't really affect anything positively. So it might just be the placement that I have to adjust on the arm. And for this one here, that looks better like that, and that looks a little better like that. So this one I think works, but this one, let me look at it a little closer here. Yeah, that works. It's never going to be exact, but that works now. Alright, so that's good. His rotation of his head is good enough. And then his legs, let's see what the bend is. That's great. That's a great bend right there. It takes practice to get the bend with the placement of these skeletons just right. Took me a while to get good at that on the first try. So that'll work. And for the animation, the only thing I have to do is fix the give that sword its own little skeleton so it's not moving with the cloth. Otherwise it looks like the sword is unfortunately affected by the cloth. So what I'll do is, let's see, this piece here was connected to that, and then maybe I'll just have that flow with that upper torso, and I'll just throw that piece in there really quick for that. Now I have to reduce the impact it has. And the only way I could do that accurately is to move this piece out of the way so I could reach this and then reduce this to its bare minimum so it's not affecting the other stuff. So now when he's walking, I think I might have to add another piece there for sure. So now that kicks forward. Let's see what happens here. That'll kick forward. This could go back a little. I could add a piece here that I think that would probably help, because there's nothing happening at the center, so I have to add another piece there. Let me do that right now and click on this, then add a small piece right there. Actually, then that's going to affect these, so let's see what happens. I think I'm gonna have to move the see, I want those other two on the edges linked to this center, so let me just delete those other two. Even though they were working, I want it linked to this. But before I do that, let me adjust the weight of it so it's not affecting too much. So maybe I'll just reduce that down to that. Now the next thing I'll do is click on this piece and then just give it the little extra pieces there so the outer edges flow. And next thing I'll do is just get these arms out of the way again and the legs, and then I'll just affect these so they're not affecting the stomach and the other main torso so greatly and distorting it. So there's a lot to it, but once you know what you're doing, see, that's a little weird. It shouldn't warp so much like that. So I probably just want to keep it from warping too much, but like hardly move that center piece unless I have to. But see how that holds it in place like that? That's not quite what I was going for. It's like restricting that piece from reaching over there. Of course you could go like that, but then that other piece here rips open. So one thing to possibly solve it is to just extend the reach of this. You can see that solves it a little, but then you have a weird distortion down here. Wow, that's weird. Is that the... Yeah, that's really weird. I think I actually reduced it too little. So that's complicated for that. I usually don't have a piece like that. So, long story short, I think I'll just eliminate this piece here, because this is what's messing it up too much. Now, let me just check this really quick. That's not too bad. there's not too much I can do with it. The sword's messed up. I have to go into the sword and extend the influence of the weight of it, but it's still affected, so you can see how complicated this is. There's probably an easy solution that I'm not immediately familiar with, but let me get to the skeletons here, the bones, and just add that other piece on the end. This way it could bend and have more flexibility. So let me just do that for both of those right now and add the final third piece there, and then click on this one and add the third piece there for the front of the shoe. So here's the character. He's moving, he's bending his shoe, and that'll work. That's better. So he's moving his shoe forward, and this could flop like that and give you a nice animated effect, like his shoe's flopping a little bit. This arm would go forward, and that would go back, and then this piece here, I think that's the sword. Let me just get that out of there. Yeah. One solution I have is to just go back and create the whole extension there instead of two separate pieces. That would keep it together. So now that all this seems a little better, although this piece is a little messed up there. I wonder why that. Let me select this piece here, bring this up further, and then extend it down. Same with this, right to the edge, like that. Hopefully that is better. Let me delete this piece here, edit, cut, and then this piece here, I'll just reverse it. So I'll bring the top part right up there and then extend it right down to the edge of the sword. It's going to get in the way a little bit more, but that's the only way it's going to work. So I can reduce the influence of it just to the bare minimum. And now I have the character almost where I think it'll have to go. But let's see. Yeah, when I move forward, that is all messed up for that piece up front there, the drape extension of his shirt. Now if that wasn't there, this is what it would look like. Oh wow, that's weird. Probably because of those skeletons affecting it. Those bones affecting it. So I think maybe I should just get rid of this piece altogether just for now. Let's just scrap this idea for the time being. I'd have to really work on that to get it just right. It's not critical. I'm not too worried about it. It's a parody, so it doesn't have to be exact. The sword, that'll work. It's just going to be in the way a little. But that piece, I'll just leave that. Maybe I'll just leave it like that. Let's see what happens. Wow, that's really weird. Because now the sword is affecting the torso. Because the sword has to move up with the shoulders, but look what's happening there. That's why it's getting all warped out of place. What I have to do probably is take this piece here, and it's got to be linked to the bottom. But that wouldn't allow it to flow with the shoulders, so that's not going to work. This is weird because I don't remember this happening before. Like, I always have like stuff on the character's back, whether it be a walker or guns or weapons or something like that from my prior films, but I never had it so it was so negatively affecting the rest of the torso. So if I have that piece out of there and then just rotate this, and just go from there, I could always just go like that. This piece will be stagnant. There might be a solution for it, but I guess I could go like that, and then if I add something here, it's just going to cause the same problem. Yeah, that's really tricky. That's why this piece needs to be separate. But then if it's separate, you saw it got all weird and out of shape, distorted, but I think that's the only solution. I was just going to leave that up there and then give it its own piece, and the way I do that is go back up here, and then I have to decide what piece I want to connect it to, and this is probably the best piece for it. But then when he bends his upper torso, this piece isn't going to move at all if it's connected to this. So let's just see what happens, and yeah, I tried this earlier, it didn't work. But let me try one last time. Maybe I had it at the wrong connection. I don't think so, but let's see. And this is really complicated. That's probably a better result than I had earlier. I wish this piece stayed with the torso a little better. You could always just carry this and then just drag it up with the movement. So that's a bit of a challenge there. I have to decide right now how I want to progress with this. Do I leave that piece in there, or do I delete it? and if I leave it in there, I could just keep a minimal impact. So let me just see what that would look like. Maybe that'll work. Just to show some slight movement at the edges of it. But then the center's not going to move. And when he goes like this, it opens up a can of worms where you have to try to match this now. That's a lot more to it. So that could work if you don't rotate him too much, so he stays in track with this piece here. But let's see. I think that could work. I just have to be careful with it. See, it's not too bad. It's a little weird, but as long as I don't rotate them way out of proportion. And then what I could do is just erase the shading on that and then color the lower torso part there the same orange, so it'll blend in and not reveal that piece there. In other words, just color this orange since this is covering all of that. So that would be orange instead of gray, and it would just blend right in. Yeah, maybe that'll be it. The solution to this challenge. So that's it. I think I got what I was looking for. It took a while and it was challenging as can be, but it just takes trial and error to get it the way you want it. And now I'll move on towards the animations. Hopefully nothing changes, but hi, Frank here. Today I'll animate a run animation for this character. It's like a parody of Dirk the Daring from Dragon's Lair. And for this run animation, I already have the walk animation completed, but with the walk, it's very challenging once you get to the last frame, because it has to loop back to frame 1. So what I did was have it there and then it goes here, and that makes sure that the animation continues without any major delays. So let's see how that turned out. So he's walking here and then it kicks right into there. That seems okay. It seems a little abrupt, but the alternative was, once it got to the 24th frame where I originally had it, it like slowed down to a crawl, and it looks like he's stalling in his walk. You could adjust it with the keyframes. Let me try that maybe. But this seems to be working. See, it's like going here and then right there it stalls. You can see it like stalls right there, and it stalls there, and then all of a sudden, okay, well that's not too bad then, because he's got to get that foot on the right side evened out, and that's what's happening there. Okay, so that, I think that'll work. I'll just leave it like that then. That means I delete these, and that's the action to allow me to just cut and paste it right into my mainline animation. So then you just do that here, but I'm not going to do that now. I'm going to go back to this and create a run, and the reason I create these actions is so I can quickly just animate without having to redo everything. So with the run, let's take a look. When I select the skeleton bone, what it does, it creates a keyframe, as you can see down here in the lower left corner, and those keyframes are really easy to create when it's automatic, where you just click on it and that automatically creates the keyframe, because then you move it to where you want it and then just move on to the next pose and you're pretty much set. It's a really great way to animate without having to manually go in here and then when I move it to where I want it, then I'd have to go in and press keyframe here. I just move it to where I want it and it automatically keyframes it and saves that position right here. Even though you don't see anything happening here, it's saving it. So then with this run, let's see, if he's in a run pose, what I'll do right now is just, let's see, I have to click on the main torso rotation, and that will allow me to move his whole body up and down when he's running. This way it's not stationary and on one level here. So next thing I'll do, now that I have that, is just copy and then paste it to 12 and then 24, and it might be less frames than that, but I'll see. So next thing I'll do is here on frame 6, let's see, I want to do the main key frame, which means his full run with his legs in the full run motion. And let's see what that would, well, technically that wouldn't really bend at that point. So I'll just move that up a little bit more there. This arm's going to be going forward, this arm will go backwards, and then his sword will probably be close to his back, because he's flying in the air at this point. And then this piece here, I can move it forward a little bit, and this one back a little bit, or forward a little, depending on that other part there. Just, it's not too bad, not too critical. So then we're not going to move his torso yet, up or down. We'll just usually just get all these keyframes in first. So looking at this is his front leg moving forward. So here on frame 18, his front leg will move backwards. And with this parody drawing, I really exaggerated his shoes, so it's like really far-fetched. So that front leg, if that's going backwards, this front arm has to go forward. But let me make sure I did this right. So if I want to check, I would just, yeah, that's wrong. So I had this one wrong. I have to move this arm back here because his front leg is moving forward, and then move this arm that way. That makes sense. Before it was wrong. So there's that. Now I want to make sure I get his upper torso moving forward. Now I could go to frame 18 here. Looks like it was off on the keyframes. This is supposed to be here. So frame 18 here, and that leg is going forward there. Now this arm is going backwards. Oh no, that's going to be going forward. And then this arm will go backwards, since he's got to balance and do that. So there we go there, and that gives you an idea of what it's going to look like. Really basic run there. And then when he's at this point, I'm going to have this kick forward down here, and then this leg will bend back more, and then this will be going like that. So then he hits here, but here you have to fix this because this is not supposed to slide underneath like that. So one way I could do that is just have it like that. And that's, let's see. Yeah, that makes sense right there. I have to have that in there, otherwise it won't. Like, see, I had it right there, but then here, and then for this I'll just bend this here. His shoes are so big, it must be difficult for him to run. So then at this point I'll relax that part there for his shoe, and then for this part, these shoes are so giant. I've never had this challenge before with the run, so I have to add all these extra keyframes in there. And then here he is dropping down again with his run. So then here, right there, that can't be like that. This leg sliding underneath, because this leg is supposed to be on the ground, so it has to bend in, and that's the challenge of his shoes being so giant. I've never faced that before to this extreme. So that goes right, and that looks right so far, and he's pushing up. See, he should be pushing up into the air at this point. This back leg should be really pushing up. So here he is, he's leaping up in the air now, right here. And then there should be more upper motion here in this, little more variation, in other words. It looked too similar to the prior frame. So there's that. Now he's falling back to the ground. This foot is not too bad. It's kind of like sliding against the ground, but that seems okay there. Now for this frame here, if I pull this over here, it'll extend that out a little, but then I'll add keyframes here. Just right click on the pen or the mouse, whatever you're using. It might not be a right click, but so next step I'll do is focus on the sword. I think that'll be okay there. I don't want any slowdown at this point. Wait a second. This leg is wrong here. This has to be going like that, because now he's going to be sliding forward again with his run. So this was the one I wanted to adjust, and then I just move that down like that. So now this leg's going to kick up like that. There we go. Just like the one in the back is doing. That's weird. So his leg kicks down there, and then all of a sudden it's up there, so I have to fix that. And one way I could try is to delete that. This way this is like that. There we go. And then this kicks up, and let's see how the back leg does. Yeah, alright, so that's more like what I was going for. Now I'll focus on the sword on his back, and he could be carrying the sword in his left hand or his right hand, but I'm not focused on that right now. These I just have temporarily shut off just so I could see the animation better, and then his mouths automatically are going to be off, but none of this takes account of it because it's not keyframed individually for these layers. It's keyframed for the skeletons, and they're not attached to skeletons, so that's why everything's on all at once here, and that's why I just shut them off temporarily. These aren't keyframed, these layers shut off. They're shut off permanently. So in order to have them off in the animation, I had to take an extra step, but I won't get into that right here. So getting back to the animation, here's the sword. Well, oh yeah, I have to animate this part here. So this piece here should not be going forward yet. This piece should be pressed against this because he's moving forward and it's pushing back because the wind. Now when the leg hits it, there, see, it goes forward properly. Now here the wind should be pushing it back at this point by now, so it should be back here again, and this should kick back a little bit, and now this should be pressed against the leg because the leg is the only thing pushing it forward. The wind is not able to do that because the wind is pushing against it. So now this piece goes there. I have to try to rotate this whole part down there, but I have to be careful because this is underlapping down there. And then this one here, I'll move that up there to match the leg. Wow, that leg really kicks up beyond where I can get that piece up there, so I'd have to move this up here, and that's a whole nother step, but it looks like it's going to be necessary. So I'll keyframe that there, and then I'll move this up here and keyframe that there. See how you can move the actual bone? If I don't, it's going to be exposing the lower leg, so I have to bring that up a little. This part here, there's not too much I can do about. just to have some sort of movement there. And this piece here is showing through the bottom leg, so I have to fix that too. I picked the wrong piece. This is the piece I'm supposed to pick. So now here is where I want to fix it, and I'll just move that there, bring this right about there, and that piece is fine there because it's really pushing up with the leg for the cloth. So this here, when we get back to the rotation, this would be pressed against there because he's in the run, and the run is heavy wind forced against the cloth. So there we go. I have the basic run. Now I'm going to add those height variations to this center pivot of the torso, and I'll just carry him right up there. And then for 18 I'll do the same thing. Since he's flying through the air now, he's leaping up in the air. Now if I didn't do that, he'd be at the same position and it would just look like he's not doing anything. So see how he bounces up and down in the air as though his legs are kicking up, and that really adds to the effect that he's running. So one way I could test this to see if it looks decent is to go from frame 24 back to 1, make sure those are varied. Yeah, that's varied. 24 and 1 have to be different, and then I have to paste all these in here, and now I'll see the continuation of it. Let's take a look. See, there's a major slowdown here. This is not good. See how slow all these limbs are moving? That's bad. So that's why I had to test it to make sure it's a flowing motion and not stalled like that was right there. That's bad. So one thing I could try is to make these linear, and then you click on your mouse button or pen button and press linear after highlighting the ones you want. So let's see what would happen with that if I copy paste it now. That's a little better. See how it's not so many frames just stalled in there? That's a lot right there being stalled. So I have to move this a little bit closer to get to the other frame quicker. I could move it right next to this, and that works perfect. And that's what's going to happen in the animation. So that is the key right there. I had these too far apart when it's supposed to be right next, because this is looping right back into frame 1. So it looks like I had it right, but I'll leave these linear, in other words a straight line to the next frame, versus a curve, which would be under smooth. So if I click on this, for example, smooth is the default. That is like a curve, so when it reaches the in between, the curve means it's a gradual smooth transition, while linear would be like a straight line. It's more rigid, so it goes right to the next frame without any variation but it's probably not going to be necessary because I have to copy paste these right next to each other to make it really work. So there's our run, and I can do a quick run animation, but before I do that I want to get to the jump, which actually I'll do another time. I'm running out of time at the moment, so I'll just transition this into a run animation rendered out. And the way you do that is go under File. You could go under Preview if you want, but it's going to have all the layers on, so it'll look weird. So what I'll do is, now that I have it saved, I go to my main line, and then if I wanted to render this out, I would go under Export Animation, and then that'll bring up all the options that you want. So for example, I would, for a test animation, I'd shut this off, shut that off, and shut these off. For the final animation, I would do anti-alias edges, and that gives you smooth edges versus jagged in most cases, and then apply layer effects. That's important for fades and fade outs and stuff like that, but I'll leave that on default no matter what anyway. And then this, I did tests on this. I didn't see any improvement other than a slowdown of the rendering, so I usually leave that off. Reduce particles, that's only if you're creating particle effects. Render at half frame, that would take 24 frames down to 12 frames, so I don't use that. Render at half dimensions just shrinks it in half for the final file size. Just for quick test animations, that's good for. And then use NTSC colors. I don't bother with that. That's for TVs in the US. But this do not pre-multiply alpha channel. The problem with use NTSC safe colors is it makes all the colors desaturated for a lot of key colors, so it's not the best. It actually changes the colors of your saturation colors and all that. Do not pre-multiply alpha channel. That's for transparency effects. And then enable multi-thread rendering. Again, that would allow for transparency effects, but that's a whole nother story there. That's if you want to render out, let's say, an explosion. You would animate the explosion, and then when you render it out, you click on this and this, and that would create a mask for the main object, and then when you render it out, everything around it will be invisible as long as you don't have a background in there. So that means all this empty space will be invisible, so you could drag and drop that explosion into an animation, and then just it'll fit right in. It'll look like its own object and not like a square box surrounding it. So that's really something pretty awesome that I've learned to use for preset animations for stuff like that. But we won't get into that now, and I'll render out the animation. And what I do is for the animation. I'll just save this really quick because I'm not gonna what I do is go to stand under actions and then press insert copy, and see it brought this in here. There's his stand animation, and then I'll click on walk and then press this button here, insert copy, and that brings that right in there. These keyframes here are on 0, so I don't need those in there. But then here he is here, and now he's starting his walk. Now I go to copy, paste. Let me test this out. See, that's too much of a slowdown there. I'm going to bring this right against there. Yeah, that's what I wanted, like a quick transition, not any slowdown at all. So I'll have him walk for a few seconds, and 1, 2, 3 seconds. Oh, you know what I forgot to do? Have the sword bounce up and down in his run. So what I could do is just double click on this. Now I'm back into the action, and now I'll make sure I click on that sword, because that should bounce up and down. So here it is, he's going in the air, that is stuck against his back. Only when he's falling back down will this sword start to fly up into the air, because it's heavy. And now here it should still be in the air as he's hitting the ground for the first instant. Now here is where it should just quickly hit the ground. So here it's in the air, and here by this point it should be against his back, because it's like flopping back after the gravity hits the sword. Now here he's going back into the air, it should be pressed against his back, and now here he's falling down, so this is still falling upward because this pivot point affects it and it's not secured. So that means here he's hit the ground already, so probably have it at this point hitting his back like that. Then you go to frame 1, it's there already. So see how it's bouncing back and forth? That secondary animation really adds a lot to the realism of your run. But I have to save that because that was an improvement. I could just delete all these except frame 1. But then getting back to this, the reason I wouldn't delete frame 1 is because I have these keyframed individually. Actually, I think I could, because those are the layers. See how I'm animating and moving them, and all the layers are as I want them. So the next thing I do here is get the run, so I have to transition to his run. So here he is here. Let me get the run, paste it in, and delete these front frames because they're the 0 frames. They're just gonna mess it up. Now here he goes into his run. That's good. That'll be helpful there. So those keyframes there, copy, paste right next to each other. This way you get a smooth send-off transition. And then I slide this over here, paste again, and I'll paste till frame 10, second 10. So here he is here running again, and then I'm gonna have him go back to his walk. See how this saves like a ton of time? Just imagine you had to animate this frame by frame again for all these motions. It's so unnecessary if you're just one guy doing all this animation. So that walk there is a weird transition. I have to fix that. And here's, I think, let's see. Yeah, this is unnecessary keyframe right there. I'll delete that. Now the walk transition, see, that is unnecessary. What I could do is copy, paste that to here, frame 258, but I need to delete this because that is in the way of the flow of the animation. So let's see, he's coming back out of a run. There we go, that's perfect. He goes right into his walk. And that's it. And then I'll conclude with the stand animation right here. See, again, it puts frame 0 in there for some reason. Not sure exactly why it does that. So here he is, he concludes his walk and then stands. Now this here, for some reason, what is that? That should have, oh, I think I know why that didn't. So that should be on the ground by that point. Same with this here, that shouldn't take so long to reach the rest position. And that's it. There's our quick animation of frame 325. So I have to go 325 and it cuts it off right there. And that'll be it. I'll render it out and then see what happens. The rendering takes a little bit of time, so I'll do that separate. Thanks for watching. Feel free to comment, subscribe, like if you feel like it, and have a good day.